the last class we have seen what is, I just gave you an introduction for what is the meaning of saying content model. So whenever we place an element or a tag in HTML, there is some sort of expected content inside it, and that is what is the content model. It describes what you can expect inside a element, what is the allowed content within a given element, and that is what is the content model. And I have told you in the old version, that is the HTML 4.0, there were two models which were available, and the model had only two types of element. One is the block element, other one is the inline element. This is the specs given by the W3C. The other one is the spec that is given by the content model that are given by the workday group, and both of them are slightly varying in their specification, not in this respect, in other specs. Okay. So let's look at what is the block element and what is the inline element. When we say block element, when you put those element or when you put those tags, the browser will produce a block. It will start from the beginning to the end. It will produce one block of content. Whereas when it is an inline element, it will not create a block. The elements are immediately applied wherever that is required. For example, if you want a part of the text to be in bold, you start with the bold and you end with the bold. That part itself will come in bold. No line break will occur. Whereas if you put the H1, H2 or div tag, the next component or the next control or next tag will come after that. So it will create a block, and after that block, something else can come. Those are the only two which were there. Now, as of now, in the HTML5, the specs of HTML5 is more on the structure and semantic. So they wanted to give the emphasis on both the structure as well as the meaning of this control, and because of that, they have given 7 different content models or 7 different kinds of elements. You will notice this is a Venn diagram that is been shown there. You will notice that most of them come inside a model called as flow. Most of them belong to the flow, except some which are there in the meta, which is not coming inside the flow. Otherwise, almost all type of content belongs to this flow. So let's look at each and every one of them. So we have this flow, we have this meta, we have this phrasing, we have this interactive, embedded, heading, and section. I'll go into each and every one of them, and in the lab we are going to apply them to the different elements. Let's start with the metadata content. What is the meaning of saying metadata content? I'm going to start with this one. So what is this metadata content? Now metadata, you know very well. Whenever we say meta, it is the data about something. So it is for something else. It's not for itself. Similarly, these controls are meant, or these will introduce something into your page that is not consumed by themselves. It's like they are doing some kind of a social service. They bring in something into the page, but they will not consume it. Somebody else is going to make use of it. That is what is the meaning of it. So that is what is the metadata. So the metadata content, it sets up the presentation or behavior of the rest of the content. So its work is to set up something for others. One of the simplest one that you can think of using is this style component. Now you have used this style. Whenever you use a style, I told you, you are going to produce a link, and in that link you give a relationship saying that it is a CSS style, and those styles are being imported. In the CSS document, you create your HTML document here, and you create a CSS document, separate document. In the CSS document, you define some rules or some styles. Now these styles are brought into the HTML via this link. So link is the tag that imports or that brings in all the rules which are declared in the CSS. However, link itself will not consume them. They are consumed by the other tag like the div tag or the body tag or whatever tag you can think of having. They are consumed by the tags which are there within your HTML. So the work of the link is to get this resource and set those resources into your HTML page so that others can use it. The same thing is true if you have used this script tag. If you have this JavaScript on a separate page, you can get the JavaScript into the page using this script. Okay, so you can get that thing. Either you can import that thing into your page, or you can just write the JavaScript directly into the page. In any case, the JavaScript itself will not be used by the script. Instead, a button, when you click on a button, may call the JavaScript, or maybe when you select some item within a drop-down list, that may call some click method or select method or anything that in turn may involve the JavaScript. So work of this meta tag is to set up those presentation or behavior that will be used by the other. So that's why they are the meta. So they are for something else. Okay. And if you notice over here, one thing, metadata itself is a part of flow, but not all of them. Usually, the metadata is found in the head. So these meta tags are usually found in the head section, not in the body section. Now let's go to the specs as such. I'm going to just take you to the specs here, and you can click on them. This link you don't have to bother because it's there in the slide, or you can just search for them. Now here, an example has been given. Now if you look at the specs that are given by the Wartwig, I know you can see that. So these are the specs that are given by the Wartwig, and I'm going to go to the W3C specs, and I can click on this. It's on the same page, but I can, instead of doing that, I can just scroll on there. Now when you look at this particular thing, I'm going to just click on them. Now they are going to explain how you can use those tags. So here they have given you the details, and I think I've also taken it from there. You cannot try to refer a book that was written in 2010 or 2011 or 2012. If you refer any textbooks that were written in the previous year up to 2012, if you are referring, remember during that time the specs were not complete. That means whatever the author has written in those books, which are already printed, they are not up to date. Some things might have changed because it's still not yet over. So if it's like somebody has not developed the Java has not yet come, and one author has written a book on Java. Now, whatever this author is writing, as this is as according to that particular date. But after that, the things might have changed. The same thing, if you go to library and get a old book which was written HTML5 that was written in 2008 or 2009 or maybe 2010, those specs may not directly work today because some of them might have been dropped altogether or some of them might have been modified. That is why I am referring to the specs which are there, which are as of now, these specs are up to date. This is the draft that is being shown by the W3C, and I am referring them. This is the only source which you can reliably say that this is going to be there because that's been accepted. Both of them have agreed upon them. So this is the meta content, and quickly go through this other part, and that is how do you put them. Now there is a small example, that's why I went there. There's a small example, both of them are giving you, and they say how to use them, and again they say there is this RDF that is being used up. We will not be bothering about it, how you can get the resources there. Let's go to the next part. I won't go very slowly with it. The next one is the flow. Now, flow occupies almost everything which is there in the body of the HTML. So you know very well, whatever you do will be there in the body. Most of the time, you don't venture into the head section of HTML. So let's recall what do I mean by that. Now, in the HTML, you have this head which you usually don't bother, but there is a reason why you are supposed to know about it, and I've told you why those meta tags are really important. Now, this is the place where you write most of the tags. So, your tags will come at this place, and the flow, anything that is coming in this area is the flow more broader way. Now, why that is written as flow? Why not the other word for that? They represent the flow of the document. What is the meaning of saying flow of the document? If you take a ordinary textbook, preferably the English textbook, we start on the top of the textbook. So we start from the left off, we go to the right, and then we go downwards. So that's the flow. Start from the top left and go to the right. According to yours, it may be different one. So this is how you do it. Suppose if you take an Arabic book, they do it in the other way around. So from the right they go to the left, and then from the bottom they come up. That is the flow. Okay. So whatever you do in your HTML document, there is a flow in your document. You expect the user to start from here, go to this side, then come back to the next line, and then again go here and so on and go down. So that represents the flow. Now all these elements will help you to put those flow within your document, and that's why that's called as the flow. What is there in the flow? Flow has a lot of things. I have not put every tag over here. Almost every tag that or almost every element that you can think in HTML5 will come over here, because you notice over here it consumes all the other tags. Almost every tag is part of it. So when you say a header, when you say section, when you say a footer, all of them are part of the flow, but they may have some other meaning apart from the flow. Okay, so that's why they are subcategorized as something else. So this is the flow. Let's go to the sectioning content. And what is this sectioning content? They define the scope of the heading as well as footer. In other words, they help you to introduce a section within your document. What's the meaning of saying section? Now you know very well. The simplest example over here, you belong to MSc section, somebody else will belong to MCA section, the third one may belong to PGDCA section, and so on. That section has a clear-cut boundary across. So when you create a page, for example, a simplest one is if you are creating a college website, there may be a section that is dedicated to the sports. There may be a section that is dedicated to the academics. There may be some section that is dedicated to research. So all of them introduce. How do you introduce the section? You may say that how are you going to introduce? Are you not going to type this div, and are you not going to put those research in one div and the other one in the other div, and so on and so forth? The answer is no. If you put them inside the div, remember, our intention is to give the meaning to somebody else. Now, who is this somebody else? Either to a search engine or a user agent. Now, if a blind person can't see the content, and if the blind person wants to go to the research section of your page, how do they do that thing? Using div, it is not possible. Why? You may say that I'm going to give a div a ID. Let me put it here. I'm going to give a div an ID saying that ID equal to research. Is it not going to work? The answer is you are going to do it in that way. Somebody else will write ID equal to RCH, or somebody else may say ID is R for the same kind of section. Now it's going to confuse the user agent. It's going to confuse the search engines which are passing your page. So you have to clearly say this is what I meant. So you have to give the proper semantic, and these are added only to introduce those semantics. So there is a separate kind of tags which belong to this category, and these include the article, the aside, the nav, the section. All of them were not there in the HTML version 5, in the version 4. These are introduced only in the version 5. So they are there to produce an outline saying that this up to here, this is one section, up to here, this is one article, up to here, it may be a sidebar, and so on, so forth. So it is very usual thing. For example, if you have if you are creating a website for a automobile industry, then you can have a section for different models of the cars or models of the vehicle that the automobile industry is giving. Or you can have a section for servicing, for sales, and so on and so forth. So you are sectioning out, saying that this part belongs to one section, the other belongs to the other section. How do you do it? You use the tags which belong to them. So when you use the article tag, when you use the aside tag, it just means to say that you are sectioning out the content. When you use the div, it means you are doing a section, but that section is not implied. That section could be anything. So div is most generalized way of putting the section. So if you use the again, it doesn't mean that using the div, where is the cursor? Using the div, it is not possible to create a section. The answer is you can create the section, but this is most general version of the section. It means many things to many people. Whereas this section, article, aside, I'm going to go through all of them in the other slides. They have a specific meaning, and there is a rule that governs how to use it. The next one is the heading content, and the heading content defines the heading of a section. Now, when you create a section over here, you may want a heading for that section, and the heading declares the head of the given section, or an article, or a page, or together. So they are there. Either it is implied or you explicitly specify them. Now you notice which are the tags which are going to get the heading. F1 to H6 are going to build a heading, and H2, which is a new one which you have not seen, will introduce it. Later, I am going to use one other tag called as a header. Now this is commonly used, but you must understand one important thing. Header does not belong to the heading content. So even though we use it very frequently, but you must understand header is not the model for heading content, but it is used heavily. So then what's the use of it? I'll talk about it in the other slides. Let's go to the phrasing content. Now phrasing is all the text that is there within your document. Now these are same as the block and the inline. In the olden days we had a block content, we had an inline content. So this belongs to that category. So what is the use of it is they are used to mark a content with something. Now, most of the time phrasing content can contain only other phrasing content. So just to give a meaning to highlight it, let's say you have, say, a text called as this is important input, and you want to highlight this important part. You want to make it highlighted. Now in your olden days, what you used to do is you used to write this one inside a tag called as, this is going to get this tag in bold. You know what's the meaning of saying bold, italic, and to get that in bold. Now when this text is shown, this piece will come in bold. That does not mean that you will get a line break after this place. This text will appear in one line, but this content is going to appear in bold, and that is what is called as phrasing. You are giving some importance to it, or for example, if you are creating a question paper, and if you want to say answer only, and if you want to make it in the italics, then you can say this kind of thing. Sorry, answer, it should be any 5 questions. So this will come in italics. Now you notice this tag, the specific tag that I'm using, they belong to the phrasing. They are used to make only one small, either to one character or maybe a set of characters, to add a tag to that particular thing. Okay. The one that we are going to use is span and strong to achieve that thing. The next one is the embedded content. Now what is this embedded? They import the other resource into the HTML page. Now which one is the embedded tag? The most simplest one is the picture. So whenever you want to import an image, remember image is not a HTML content, image is not a text, image is a graphics. So if you want to import an image, you will say like this. Okay. So I need a double quotes here. Now this is going to get an image into this page. It's going to import an image into a page. Now just recall what is this meta content. Meta content is also import a resource into the page. Now if I put a say link, and if I say href equal to some CSS file, and if I say the relationship is style sheet, this is going to import something. I'm not going to complete everything. This is also going to import a resource into the page. Now what's the difference between then embedding and then meta? This is the link is a meta tag. This is the meta content. Why it is not the embedded? What's the difference? The difference is when you import a style sheet, the style sheet itself is not used by the link. The style sheet, the content of the style sheet may be used by the div, the body, the paragraph, something else is going to make use of that resource. What about this image? When you bring this image, that image tag is going to show that image is not given to some other content. It itself will consume it. That's what is the meaning of saying embedding it. You just get that thing in and you show it. Now, the other type of them are the sound, that is the audio and video. You can import them. Now, let's just to recall this image. If you notice over here, there is a separation between the meta and the embedded. So, what is meta is separate one. What is embedded is a separate one. Embedded is you just take a resource and put it there, and that tag, whichever tag that has got that resource will consume it. It will not give it to something else. Whereas if it's a meta will get that resource, but it will not consume it. It will give it to someone else. But both of them are phrasing. They belong to the phrasing, and again they also belong to the flow content. Okay, why they belong to the flow content is you know very well. When you add an image, that also adds a flow to the document. You say somebody is going to read just text, and they are going to refer the picture which is there on the other side. That is also again a flow. Okay. Let's go to the next one. And the next one is the interaction. Now, suppose if you say you have not done that thing, suppose if you add a video, embed a video into your page. Now, the video you can pause it, you can play it, you can do something with that video. And this is the interaction that you are doing with the video. And the content that are responsible for that is the interactive content. So, interactive content allow the user to interact with the resources which are there inside it. It could be a button, it could be audio, it could be some embedded image, pigeon, and other things which help the others to interact with it. So let's now look at the different elements. Remember, these are the models which are there all together. So we have the, let me quickly show that diagram the last time. These are all we have it. Flow will give you the overall flow of the document. Meta will introduce a resource, but which will be useful for the others. Phrasing is to just add the highlights to the text. Embed is to embed a new resource into the document. Interaction is to interact with the embedded. You notice over here, the interaction and embedded are connected. At this place, they overlap. Why? When you put a video or when you put an audio, embed an audio into your page, you need some things to play, pause, forward, rewind. That is the interaction. But you notice over here, heading and the sectioning, they don't interact with all of them. They are separate altogether. Okay. But they are part of the flow. Let's go back and let's look at the new element that are there only in the HTML5. And these new elements, if you look at here, there are 28 new elements that are introduced in the HTML5, which were not there in the HTML. You don't have to bother about all of them. It's not really required. However, there is also some meanings for some of the elements which are changed. You might have used in your previous class the anchor tag A. Okay. Now, A is not just the anchor or a link to something else. Now it also means it's a flow as well as it is meant for the phrasing. There is a different meaning. We'll come back to them when we really use it. I'm again not very sure about the horizontal rule. If you use this HR tag, wherever you use this HR tag, this will be replaced by a line. The browser will produce a line on if wherever the HR is there. In older days, the browser is to produce one line. Now the meaning of HR has slightly changed. The meaning of HR is it's a thematic break. What's the meaning of saying thematic break? When you put the HR, it means that the theme has ended here. Whatever that we were explaining, the theme ends here, something else is going to start from this place. For example, if you are writing an article on some inaugural of your epitome, you will say that the president's speech started and president gave some speech and so on. Once the president's speech ends, the theme of that first part ends. Or once the inaugural is over, then the other activities will start. The theme will come to an end. And if you want to highlight that the theme ended at the top lines, then you put the HR. To say that it's a thematic end. After this, it's something else which is going to start. You notice now that a lot of emphasis is given on the meaning, not the tag. They don't just say that you put the tag and do it. The tag has to be cautiously used, and you have to make a judgment call as to which type of the tag am I going to use. It's not enough if you just use a tag. You have to judiciously use a tag which is allowed within a given context. The next one is the cite. Now, if you want to put a citation so that others can refer to it, cite can be used. And in the just now I gave an example for bold. Now we don't use that bold here. We use other element called as strong. Now strong is now referred to the importance. So whenever you put this strong and slash strong, it gives an importance to that particular sentence or that particular word. So if you want to highlight that particular thing, so if you want the search engine to take up that word and index it, so you want to give extra importance or extra preference for a given text or maybe given number or anything to put it in the strong. So that's the meaning. So let's look at a simple site that you may have here. So let's assume that we are going to build a site for a newspaper. What is there in the newspaper? We have a header and we have a navigation that will take us to the different sections, food, local business, and so on and so forth. And within this, you can have under business, you have finance, property, and so on and so forth. that will help you to navigate across here. So this will directly take you to the main section, and you can go to the individual article within that section, and you may have one main article here and a diagram to say that this article may belong to it, and everything may be put in one section. And at the end, you may have a footer. Apart from that, you may have something else inside it. So this is how you design a web page. Now, in the olden days, to do this, you would start with the div tag and use it. Now the things have changed. It is not just the div tag; it is the other tag that has to be used so that the search engine and the user agent will be able to understand the. Now let's look at one more section over here. Now, if you look at this one, the top one is the header. So that comes over here. Then we have a navigation that will take you to different sections. Don't worry about it if you can't read it, but you can guess what is it going to happen. And you may have a section with a canvas there with some diagrams on top of it. And you may also have a side. Now, what is this? A side is some related articles. One thing that will take you to the other sections. And you may have this main part over here, that is the you may have an article, you may have a header for the article, you may have a section inside it, and the last one is the footer that is being represented. So this is the idea that we have it here. Now, in order to represent all of them, we have different tags that are being used. So for the header, we have a header tag. For the navigation, we have a navigation tag. For the side, we have a side tag. For the heading and footer, we have a heading and footer section. For the section as well as article, we have a different tag altogether. Remember, when you put this tag, what is going to happen? Is it going to create a block? The answer is no, it's not going to create anything. Am I going to say a highlight on the page? The answer is no. Then what's the use of it? It's not meant for the user, it is meant for the user agent, which are going to pass to the pages. The meaning is given to the search engine as well as the meaning is given to the screen reader, so that it is able to detect the content which is there inside your page. You may say that, why do I have to bother about it? The way in which you create the page is different from the way in which your friend is going to create a page. Now, if the search engine has to index your page, it has to get the meaning out of it. If somebody says the search engine, the Google, that I want this article, then the Google must pinpoint to the exact article which is there in your page, not an advertisement which is there on your page. So that's the reason you are supposed to get it. So if you're not able to convey that meaning to the Google or for that matter any search engine, it's not going to index your page. If it's not going to index your page, nobody will read the content that you have written, and definitely your website will not be a hit altogether. So let's start with the header. And again, I have put the link again. This link is as of today's link. The link may change, but I've said for the past 1 year, the link has not changed altogether. It's still there, and they are referring to the same with the change in the specs. Now let's look at the header element. Now, when you put this header, remember this is different from the other one. Let me highlight that part first. When you create a HTML document, you start with the HTML, then you start with the head, then you start with something you're going to write, and you start with this head, and next you start with the body and you continue. Now this is the head, and I'm talking about the header. There is a huge difference. I'm not talking about that head. This is not the one that I'm talking about. I'm talking about something different, which is not this one. So this is the header section. So what is the use of a header? Whenever you put a header, it says it's an introduction to a section or an article. It also helps you in the navigation across different sections. Suppose if you have different sections inside your pages, and if somebody, not the human, if some software or some user agent wants to quickly go through the section, then you introduce the section by putting a heading at the top. And how you do that thing is you put the header. You of the entire page may have a header. Every section within the page may have a header. What must be there inside a header? Inside a header, you can have the H1, H2, H6 tag, or you can have a paragraph, you can have a link, you can have anything. What you are saying is this part is the introduction. So within my page, I have a section here, and this piece that I am referring is going to introduce that section to you. So for the user agent, you're saying this piece will introduce the section. Now, a person who can't see the content which is there and the screen reader is reading, it will read the section heading. It says sports, it will read the politics and so on and so forth. When it says entertainment, the person who can't see, who has a physical disability, they may say, okay, select this section. I want to read this section. Now, using the div, if you have done that, everybody will come up with their own IDs, and it's like declaring a variable. You declare it as n, somebody else will declare it as no, somebody will declare it as n1. All of them means a number. Some will say nun. There is no uniqueness, and we want that uniqueness in the page so that it is possible for us to give a better information to the users. Okay, and that's why we have it. Now, very important thing that you have to understand here is a header cannot have one more header inside it. You can't have a subheading inside a heading. You can put one more header inside that head, nor you can introduce a footer into that. So these two are not allowed. And you have the specs here. You can go here and refer to the specs. I'm going to go to the heading section here. That's much easier. And you notice at this place, this heading content, this is the content model, does not have that header. That's what I was talking about. That content is not the content model. The model does not say that header belongs to them. What's the reason? Header is there just to introduce a section. It's not going to print anything. It's not going to create any new things there. So let me go here again. I think my default browser is Internet Explorer, and this is going to slow me down a bit because it really takes a horrible time for Internet Explorer to render something. So once I have this piece here, I will do it only once. I have the things here. It's the same thing. Let me just show you the specs. Internet Explorer is terribly slow. Still a distraction. Just took half an hour for it to show. Okay. Anyhow, I'm going to show it in the Internet Explorer. And if you notice, this is the W3 specs. I'm referring to the W3 specs. Now, if you notice over the way in which they have written, so first they say header element, then they say to which category it belongs to, and they are going to specify which is the context in this it can be used. It can be used in the flow context. So whether you expect a flow to your thing, you can use it. And here, the one that I've just copy pasted is available here. And you notice, I think you can read it from there. You're not able to read it. Okay. The header element is intended to be usually contain the section heading like H1, H2, H3, and so on and so forth, and H group. But this is not really required in what they are saying. Usually, when you put the heading, you can put H1, H2, H3, but if you don't put it, it's all right. So you can directly type a text inside the header and slash header. Once you say header and the header, it is assumed to be header. You don't have to do it. So again, it's up to you to decide which element am I going to use. Okay. If you notice over here, it can also be used to wrap the table of content inside it. So a lot of leverage is there in this text. They just say how you can use it. Now, whether am I supposed to use it, it's your decision. Should I use it or not? Let's look at the example over here. This is the same example they are trying to show over here. You notice that they're trying to show the specs here. Now, the one that you see here, the, the content that you see here, they're trying to show the same thing in code. Suppose if you want to show this kind of element, what the element will do, and so on and so forth. If you want to write a section for an element, how do you do it? Now, if you notice here, this is how they are saying that. So, scalable vector graphics that will introduce the section. Working graph as on something. So, this is an introduction to the remaining part of the thing. So, if you really want to know what is SVG, and if you go to this page and then try to say, okay, like how I'm showing you the header element. Suppose if you want to see what is SVG, then the user must be shown the document in some format. Remember, it is not that which is coming in blue color, red color. I'm not talking about the color or the formatting of it. I'm just showing you the structure. So, how do you structure it? You have to introduce the section. So, they introduce the section here, saying that in the H1, in a large font, they will show that this is scalable vector graphic, and then slightly reduced font, they want to show that this is a working graph. Whether when you look at these two things, you will feel whether am I supposed to read the next part or should I skip it? Now, if you notice over here, it says working graph of 29th October 2004. It is a very old draft altogether. Somebody, if they are not a research person, they may say that that's too old to be read, and they may skip this content altogether. So, otherwise, if you had not written this kind of sectioning, if you have not grouped them together, what would have happened is the user agent or the search engine would have taken a lot of time to really analyze whether it has to read all the content, get the meaning out of it. You notice over here, there is this group, there is this section, and so on. The header is not 2 lines, the header is a lengthier section altogether. All these things up to here are part of the header. The header ends at this place. So you can have anything inside there. A paragraph, a link, anything of your choice, but you are just marking that from here to here is an introduction to the section, and then your real section will start from the other place. Let me go to the next one. I have the same example over here. Now let's look at the one that we can think of using. So here you have the header. Okay, this will be the header for the entire page, not the section heading that you can think of using. Navigation, that's not really required. Sectioning, you have a section and a header. A very simple one. This piece will be the header that is there, and the section will follow from there. Okay. Again, you may have a side with the header. This one, if you can really newsletter, whether you want to subscribe it or not. Okay. So the example that is already being shown there. What will come inside it? Let me zoom at any one of them, and here you have the header section that helps you to navigate. The NAV is the nav tag that helps you to navigate to the different sections, like daily section, forums, download, and so on. So that will be the header. Let's go to the next one, and the next one is the navigation. Navigation, the word itself says, it is used to help the user to navigate from one section to the other section. Remember, every link in your page is not to be tagged as navigation. Not every link will help you to navigate from one place to the other. Only the important tags or only the important links has to be marked as a navigation. So They are intended only for major blocks of navigation. So these are the major section or the major part of my website. So game, forum and all those things. I may have some additional links that will take the things to something else. It will not make a sense for me to mark them as a nav because they may not they are not the major links. Again, if the rating of your page is based on how many links you have. So if you take a page for that matter, the ranking, I told you how the Google is ranking, and you may learn that ranking algorithm. The ranking is usually based on how many links are coming into your page and how many of them are going out of your page. Now these are the major links which are there within your page. Your page may have other links. Now if the link is going to an unwanted site, like a start site or the site that has a lower rating, then your page ranking will also come down because from your page people are going to a junk information. So that means your page is not a great page. From your page, if the user, not only the content of your page is good, apart from that, your page is taking the user to all the professional sites or all the good sites. They are making a link to all of them. That means your page is a valuable resource. So automatically the ranking will be higher. So how do I tell the search engine that even though I have some links for all the bad sites there, all the junk sites there, but they are not my navigation. My navigations are only the professional ones. How do I do that? I have to put all of them as part of my navigation. So put them in the navigation so that the search engine knows that even though there are other links, but these are the ones which are major links. Okay, the next one is a section. Now, section is used to represent a generic section of the document. Okay, what's the meaning of that? It's a thematic grouping with the heading. One thing that you want to represent: sports, one section; history, one section; academics, one section. You put a section, and a section is marked with a heading. Okay. So usually, I think I've already shown you. The section may have one block, a tab that is separating one from the other. Identical to section, you have an article. There is a difference between a section and an article. We'll look at that. Now let's look at a section over here. This is again, this examples I'm taking it directly from the site that I've already shown you. W3C examples. It's not my example. This is regarding the Apple site, the one that promotes the Apple, and you notice over here there is a section that says Red Delicious, and you have the section. Section has a heading. You notice over here the heading is not marked over here, okay, but H1 has been used to indicate that it's a header section. There is one other section that comes onto the other side, so that is the section. Next one is the article. The article is also grouping like a section, but there is a difference. Now, what's the difference between an article and a section? Both of them are meant to section out your content, but article can be independently cited. What's the meaning of saying independently cited? Now, suppose if you want, you have a page here, make it in yellow. If you have a page here, you have a sections within the page, not the articles. Now, sections are usually related to the others. Now, if you want to read the next section, it is expected that you may have to read the previous section in order to understand the other section. But if you have an article within the page, both of them are a blocked content. They look identical. They have, both of them have a heading and some content. They are same, but what the difference here is, you can allow somebody else to come and read only this article and walk out of your page without bothering about the other content. So you can read only one part. So in your newspaper, if you go to the newspaper, you read a review on a movie, which is the latest movie, but you don't have to read the political section. You can only read that part, understand, and then walk off. And that is the article. What about section? Section may have a link to the article. Now, whenever we say this article, we mean to say that it is independently distributable or reusable. Somebody else can cite this particular thing. Newton's four laws of three laws of motion are there, and you want somebody to link to this page, read this article, and walk out without reading all the histories of physics. Then this is an article. Somebody can point to it. Now, Amitabh Bachchan may have a blog, and in one of the blog, he might have told something about the patriotic story on India. Somebody may cite and say that Amitabh Bachchan said this particular thing. In order to understand that article, I don't have to read all the blogs of all the 10,000 pages that Amitabh Bachchan has written. So this is the article. So article is meant for sectioning out as well as the article is independent. So it's a self-contained composition within the document that can be indicated. There are some things